My cat likes to scratch the walls. Don't you? You like to scratch the walls? I'll give you something to scratch with this amazing do-it-yourself scratching post. Alright, for this project you'll need some sisal rope. I ended up needing about 150 feet. You'll also need a 4x4, a sheet of plywood. I used this old scrap 1/4 inch plywood. And for the base, I used some extra stall mat from a previous project, but you could use something like carpet instead. The highest point on the wall where my cat scratches is about 3 feet tall, so I made this scratching post 3 feet. Start by stapling the sisal rope to the top of the post. Then just start winding it around. It helps to use gloves when you're doing this. About every 10 turns, I put in another staple. If the staples stick out like this, I just used a hammer to flatten it out. I don't want my cat's claws to get caught on that. After a bunch of winding, I had this. You can see I left a little bit empty on the bottom. You'll see why later. Next, I traced the outline of my plywood on the stall mat. I then used a jigsaw to cut it out. Again, you could use carpet for this instead. You just want something that your cat won't mind stepping on, and something that your cat's not going to be able to destroy really quickly with its claws. Then I marked an X to find the center point. From there, I measured out 1 3/4 inches from the center on all 4 sides. That's because a 4x4 piece of lumber is actually only about 3.5 by 3.5 inches. I have no idea why they do that. Then I set the post down and lined it up. From there, I drew an outline all the way around. Then I drilled 1 hole in each corner of the square. That way, I could fit the jigsaw in the hole and cut out the square. Next, I sprayed the plywood with water. That's because I'm using Gorilla Glue, and Gorilla Glue requires this. I then put on a nice coating of glue. I made sure to get the outer edges pretty close. That way the mat won't peel up. Then I set the mat on top and aligned it. I then used a razor blade to trim any excess rubber off the edges. I used some clamps to hold everything in place, and then set the post in place. Then we were able to flip the whole thing over, and the clamps hold the mat onto the wood. Finally, I put a couple screws in to hold the post in place. Make sure these get countersunk so the screws don't stick out and scratch up your floor. Now all I had to do was test it out. Okay, so they're interested, kind of. I think it'll just take a little bit of time for them to warm up to it. They're definitely intrigued. So that was a quick and inexpensive project. Hopefully, it'll actually help deter my cat from scratching the walls. Now she's got this new gigantic scratching post to play with. If you like these videos, please like or subscribe.